The alarm bells rang through Station Prime as the single transport ship came into view. Admiral Yoon Hae-jin stood at the massive viewing window, watching the small vessel drift slowly toward the docking bay. Her hands were pressed flat against the cold metal wall and her face showed deep worry. 6 months ago, 50,000 of the galaxy's best warriors had left this same station. They were going to Earth, a small blue planet where humans lived. The mission was simple. Show these humans that the Galactic Council was stronger. Make them join the galaxy under Council rule. It should have been easy work, but now only one ship was coming back. Just one. "Admiral, the ship is requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant Bae Jun-ho from his control station. His voice shook a little as he spoke. "Let them dock at Bay 7, Yoon replied, "and clear everyone else out of that area. I want only essential staff there." The transport ship looked normal from the outside. No damage, no burn marks from weapons. It moved smoothly through space as if nothing had happened. But something was very wrong. Where were the other ships? Where were the other warriors? Dr. Park So-young hurried into the command center. She was the Council's top mind doctor, someone who could read thoughts and understand how people felt just by looking at their brain patterns. Her equipment bag bounced against her leg as she walked quickly. "Admiral, I got your message," she said, slightly out of breath. "Is it true? Only one ship returned?" Yoon nodded slowly. "The pilot hasn't said anything yet. He just requested docking permission and went quiet. We don't even know who's on board." They watched together as the ship settled into the docking bay. The metal doors closed around it with a soft hiss. Then everything was quiet for a long time. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication system. "Someone is coming out of the ship." Yoon and Dr. Park hurried down to the docking bay. When they arrived, they saw a figure walking slowly toward them. He wore the standard uniform of an Altarian scout, but something about the way he moved was different. His steps were careful, like someone walking through a place full of ghosts. "Kang Tae-min," Dr. Park whispered, recognizing him. He was the communications officer for the Earth mission. Tae-min had always been known for his detailed reports. After every mission, he would write long documents about everything he had seen and done. His commanders valued him because he never missed important details. But now, as he walked toward them, his eyes looked empty. "Tae-min," Admiral Yoon called out. "Report what happened on Earth. Where's the rest of the fleet?" Tae-min stopped walking. He looked at the Admiral, then at Dr. Park, then down at his own hands. For a moment it seemed like he might speak. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "Soldier, I asked you a question," Yoon said more firmly. "What happened to our warriors? What happened to the mission?" Tae-min raised his head slowly. His face was calm, but his eyes held something that made Dr. Park step back. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something deeper, something that seemed to change the very air around him. "They should have left them alone," he said quietly. Those were the only words he spoke. After that, he remained silent no matter what questions they asked him. They brought Tae-min to the medical center first. Dr. Nam Soo-jin, the station's chief medical officer, ran every test she could think of. His body was healthy. No injuries, no signs of violence, no strange diseases. His blood was normal. His bones were strong. Everything about him seemed perfectly fine. But when Dr. Park connected her brain-reading equipment to his head, the results were very strange. Tae-min's mind showed patterns she had never seen before. It wasn't damage exactly. It was more like his thoughts had been changed in some deep way. "Look at these readings," Dr. Park said to Admiral Yoon later that day. They were in her office looking at brain scans on a large screen. "See these wave patterns here? This is what we usually see when someone has learned something that completely changed how they think about the world." "What kind of thing?" Yoon asked. "I don't know. But whatever happened on Earth, it wasn't what we expected." Commander Lee Dong-woo joined them in the office. He was in charge of military planning for the Council. His job was to understand how battles were won and lost, but the information they had about Earth made no sense to him. "Admiral, I've been reviewing our intelligence reports about Earth," he said. "The humans have no energy shields. Their weapons shoot metal bullets instead of plasma beams. They can't read minds like the Altarians. They can't change their bodies like the shapeshifters. They don't even live very long compared to most of us." "So what went wrong?" Yoon asked. "That's what I can't figure out. Our fleet had enough firepower to destroy their entire planet if needed. But somehow 49,999 of our warriors just disappeared." Dr. Park looked at Tae-min's brain scans again. What if they weren't destroyed? What do you mean? Commander Lee asked. What if something else happened to them? Something we don't understand yet? Admiral Yoon was quiet for a long time. Then she made a decision that would change everything. Dr. Park, I want you to try everything you can to find out what Taemin saw on Earth. Use any equipment you need. Commander Lee, prepare a new mission to Earth. This time we go carefully. We watch from a distance first. How many ships? Lee asked. 5 ships, small ones. With the best sensors we have. I want to know what happened to our people. That night, Taemin sat alone in his room on the station. The walls were white and clean like all council facilities. But he wasn't seeing the walls. In his mind, he was still on Earth, still remembering things that the doctors couldn't reach with their machines. He remembered fields of green plants moving in the wind. He remembered the smell of rain on dirt roads. He remembered faces, human faces, looking at him with something he had never experienced before in his life with the Council's military. He remembered a human woman who had offered him water when his suit systems failed. She didn't know who he was or why he was there. She just saw someone who needed help. He remembered the moment when everything changed, when he realized that everything the Council had taught him about strength and power and control was wrong. But he couldn't tell them. Not because he was afraid, not because someone was stopping him. He couldn't tell them because he knew they wouldn't understand. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The next morning, Dr. Park tried again to read his memories using her strongest equipment. The machine hummed and beeped, sending gentle waves into his brain to unlock what he had seen. But every time she tried, the same thing happened. The memory would start to form, showing images of Earth's blue sky and white clouds. Then everything would fade except for one picture, a human man standing in a field of yellow grain. He was old, with lines around his eyes from smiling. He wore simple clothes and carried a metal container full of water. He was walking toward a group of council warriors, and his face showed no fear at all. Would you like some water? The man asked in the memory. You look tired. Then the memory would end and Dr. Park's equipment would stop working. Taemin knew they would keep trying to understand. He knew they would send more ships to Earth. And he knew that when they did, everything would change for the Galactic Council, because the humans were waiting. They had been waiting for a very long time, but he couldn't warn them, because the warning itself would be meaningless until they learned what he had learned, until they understood what the humans really were. Commander Lee decided to take a dangerous risk. He ordered his ships to land on Earth's surface, but only for short visits. Each team would stay for exactly 72 hours, no longer. They would study the humans and try to understand what had happened to their missing warriors. Lieutenant Bae Jun-ho volunteered for the first ground mission. He was known for his strong military discipline and loyalty to the Council. If anyone could resist whatever influence the humans had, it would be him. He landed his small scout ship in a forest clearing, far from any human settlements. The plan was simple. Observe from a distance, take readings, and return to orbit before anything could affect his judgment. But things didn't go as planned. On his first day, Bae was setting up scanning equipment when he heard voices nearby. A group of humans was walking through the forest carrying tools and supplies. Bae quickly hid behind some trees and activated his cloaking device. The humans weren't doing anything military or threatening. They were cleaning up fallen branches and old trash that had been left in the forest by other humans. They worked together without anyone giving orders. When one person got tired, another would help without being asked. When they found injured animals, they took care of them gently. Bae watched them work for hours. It was like watching a military unit, but with no commander and no conflict. Everyone seemed to know what needed to be done, and they did it willingly. On his second day, one of the humans found his hidden scanner equipment. "Hello?" called a woman's voice. "Is someone there? Are you lost?" Bae's training told him to remain hidden and avoid contact. But something about the woman's voice made him curious. She didn't sound afraid or aggressive. She sounded concerned, like she was worried about his safety. He deactivated his cloaking device and stepped out from behind the trees. The human woman looked at him with wide eyes. She had probably never seen an Altarian before, but she didn't run away or call for help. "Oh my," she said softly. "You're from space, aren't you? Are you hurt? Do you need help?" This response shocked Bae completely. In his military training, first contact with unknown species always involved either fighting or formal diplomatic protocols. But this human was treating him like a lost person who might need assistance. "I am not hurt," he replied carefully. "I am conducting research," the woman smiled. "That's wonderful." "What kind of research?" "Maybe I can help. I'm a biologist. I study living things in the forest." For the next several hours, the human woman named Dr. Yu Mision showed Bei around the forest. She explained how different plants and animals work together to create a healthy environment. She pointed out how trees shared nutrients through their root systems, and how various species helped each other survive. "It's all connected," she explained as they walked along a stream. "Nothing lives alone. Everything supports everything else." Bei found himself asking questions he had never thought about before. In council space, different species competed with each other for resources and territory. But on Earth, it seemed like cooperation was the natural way of life. On his third day, something strange happened. Bei woke up and realized that his weapon felt unusually heavy. Not physically heavy, it weighed the same as always. But carrying it felt wrong somehow, like it didn't belong with him anymore. He tried to ignore the feeling, but it got stronger throughout the day. When he saw Dr. Yu again, he found himself asking her about it. "Do your people carry weapons?" he asked. She looked surprised. "Some do for hunting or protection from dangerous animals, but most of us don't need them in daily life." "Why do you ask?" Bei couldn't explain why, but he took his plasma rifle off his shoulder and set it down against a tree. Immediately, he felt more comfortable. "That's interesting," Dr. Yu said thoughtfully. "On your world, do you need to carry weapons all the time?" "Yes," Bei replied. "We are soldiers. Weapons are part of our identity. But you're not fighting anyone right now, are you?" she asked gently. "Maybe your weapon feels unnecessary because there's no conflict here." This conversation troubled Bei deeply. He had carried weapons for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to be in a place where they weren't needed. And for the first time in his adult life, he was experiencing what safety actually felt like. When his 72 hours were up, Bei reluctantly returned to his ship. But as he prepared for takeoff, he found himself hesitating. Part of him wanted to stay and learn more about how the humans lived without constant conflict. He forced himself to launch and return to the command ship. But when Commander Lee asked for his report, Bei struggled to find the right words. "The humans are not what we expected," he said finally. "They are not primitive. They have chosen a different path than we have." "What do you mean?" Lee asked. "They have learned to live without fighting, not because they are weak, but because they are strong enough to choose peace." Commander Lee didn't like this report. He decided to send down engineer Nam Soo-jin for the next mission. She was practical and focused on technology. Surely she wouldn't be affected by whatever had influenced Bei. But Nam's mission went even worse. From the Council's perspective, she landed near a human city and began studying their technology and infrastructure. What she found amazed her. The humans had developed incredibly efficient systems for providing clean water, food, and energy to millions of people. Their technology wasn't as advanced as Council technology, but it was designed completely differently. Council technology was built for war, exploration, and conquest. Human technology was built for taking care of people and protecting their environment. On her second day, Nam encountered a group of human children who were having trouble with a broken toy. Without thinking, she stopped to help them fix it. Her engineering skills made the repair easy, and the children's grateful smiles made her feel something she had never experienced as a Council engineer. Her work in the Council military was important, but it was mostly about building better weapons and stronger ships. Here she had used her skills to make children happy. The difference felt significant in a way she couldn't fully understand. By her third day, Nam found herself spending most of her time in a human school, helping teachers explain basic engineering concepts to young students. The children asked endless questions about space travel and other planets, and their curiosity reminded her of why she had become an engineer in the first place. Not to build weapons, but to understand how things worked and make life better. When Nam returned to the command ship, she was quiet and thoughtful. Her report to Commander Lee was brief. "The humans have technologies we should study, but more importantly, they have perspectives we should consider." "What kind of perspectives?" Lee asked. "They build things to help people rather than to defeat enemies. Their entire civilization is designed around cooperation instead of competition." Mission after mission produced similar results. Every Council officer who spent time on Earth returned changed in some way. They didn't become different people, but they seemed to remember parts of themselves that military life had made them forget. Dr. Shin Hye-won, the fleet's science officer, made the breakthrough discovery that explained what was happening. She had been analyzing brain scans from the returning officers and comparing them to scans of humans that she took from orbit. What she found was remarkable. "Commander," she reported to Lee, "human brains produce a unique type of neural resonance. It's not telepathy or mind control. It's more like an emotional frequency that promotes empathy and cooperation." "You're saying they can control our thoughts?" Lee asked. "No, not control. Influence maybe, but only in positive ways. Being around humans seems to activate brain regions in other species that promote social bonding and cooperative behavior. But it only works if the other species is willing to be influenced. So our people chose to be affected? In a way, yes. The human influence only brings out qualities that were already there. Our officers had the capacity for cooperation and empathy all along. The humans just reminded them that those qualities existed." This discovery terrified Commander Lee. If humans could naturally inspire other species to become more cooperative and less warlike, they posed an existential threat to the Council's entire way of life. He sent an urgent message back to Station Prime, explaining what his teams had discovered. The response came back within hours. "Return to base immediately. Do not let any more personnel land on Earth. This information is classified at the highest level." But as Lee prepared to leave Earth's system, he received one more communication that changed his understanding of the situation completely. It came from Scout Tae-won, the former Council warrior who was now working in human agriculture. "Commander Lee," the message said, "before you leave, you should know something important. The humans have been aware of our presence in their system from the beginning. They know about all the ships that are watching them from orbit. They know about your investigation missions, and they know about the report you just sent to your superiors. This was impossible. Human technology couldn't detect cloaked Council ships or intercept encrypted communications." "How?" Lee asked in response. "Because they've been watching the stars much longer than you think," Tae-won replied. "And because they've been preparing for this day for a very long time. The humans aren't primitive, Commander. They never were." Commander Lee Dong-woo stood in the briefing room, looking at the 5 ship captains who would lead the new mission to Earth. Each captain was from a different species, chosen for their special skills. Captain Choi Yu-jin could sense energy patterns from great distances. Captain Hong Subin was an expert at reading the emotions of other creatures. The others were equally skilled in their own ways. "Remember," Lee told them, "this is not an attack mission. We go to observe and learn. We need to understand what happened to our people." The journey to Earth took 12 days. During that time, the crew studied everything they knew about humans. The information was not very impressive. Humans lived for less than 100 years. They needed to eat food every day to survive. They could only live on planets with very specific air and water conditions. By all measures, they should have been easy to defeat. But as the small fleet came closer to Earth's solar system, they began to find things that didn't make sense. "Commander," said Specialist Kim Min-ho from the scanning station, "I'm picking up metal debris in the outer system. It looks like pieces of our ships." Lee studied the scanner readings. "How many pieces?" "Thousands. But they're not scattered like they would be from an explosion. They're organized, like someone collected them and put them in specific places." Captain Choi spoke from her ship. "Commander, I'm detecting the same energy signatures we use in our ship hulls. But they're on the planet's surface now, not in space." This was very strange. Energy signatures from Council ships couldn't just move by themselves. Someone had to transport them. But who and why? As they got closer to Earth, they could see the blue and white planet that their database had described. It looked peaceful and beautiful, spinning slowly in the light of its yellow sun. There were no military ships around it, no weapons platforms, no defense systems at all. "It looks exactly like our intelligence reports said it would," Captain Hong observed. "So what happened to 50,000 warriors?" Commander Lee made a decision. "Captain Choi, take your ship down to the surface. Stay cloaked and find those metal signatures. The rest of us will wait here and monitor your mission." Captain Choi's ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a ghost. Her cloaking systems made her invisible to human detection methods. She flew over cities and forests, following the energy signatures to their sources. What she found made her call Commander Lee immediately. "Sir, You need to see this. Her voice came through the communication system. I found pieces of our ships, but they're not just sitting here. The humans have turned them into things. What kind of things? Lee asked. Gardens, playgrounds, art structures. There's a piece of Admiral Corrin's flagship that's now part of a children's playground. The humans built swings and slides around it. Children are playing on it right now. Lee felt cold. Admiral Corrin had been one of their most respected leaders. His flagship was a symbol of council power, and humans were using it as playground equipment. Are the children in danger from radiation or damaged systems? He asked. No, sir. That's the strangest part. Someone cleaned and repaired everything perfectly. The metal is safe, polished, and decorated with bright colors. It's like they turned weapons of war into gifts for their young. Captain Hong's ship was scanning a different area. Commander, I found more ship pieces here. But these are part of a monument. There are words written in human language and also in Altarian script. What do the words say? Lee asked. Captain Hong was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. They say to those who came from far away and chose to stay, your sacrifice made peace possible. Back on the command ship, Specialist Kim was trying to make sense of the data. Commander, our people didn't die here. The life scanners would have found their bodies. But they're definitely not on the ships anymore. Where are they then? Lee asked. Kim worked at his controls, running deep scans of the planet's surface. Sir, I'm finding life signs that match our species. Altarians, Chronari, Vectar, all of them. But they're not in prison camps or military facilities. They're living in human cities. This news hit Commander Lee like a physical blow. Living with them? You mean as prisoners? No, sir. The life signs show they're healthy, active, and moving freely. Some of them are working in human fields. Others are in what looks like schools or research centers. They're not being held against their will. Commander Lee ordered all ships to maintain their positions while he tried to understand this information. Their warriors weren't dead. They weren't captured. They were living normal lives alongside humans, but why? The answer began to come when Captain Choi made another discovery. She had been following a group of Altarian life signs to a small human town. Using her ship's advanced sensors, she could watch what was happening without being detected. Commander, she reported, I'm watching one of our people working in a human farm. It's Scout Tae-Wan from the Advanced Reconnaissance Unit. He's helping humans plant seeds in the ground. Is he being forced to work? Lee asked. No, sir. He's laughing. The humans are teaching him something and he looks happy. This made no sense. Tae-Wan was a career soldier. He had spent his entire adult life in military service. The idea of him happily farming with humans seemed impossible, but the evidence continued to pile up. Captain Hong found a former council engineer working with humans to build better water systems for their cities. Another ship located a Chronari warrior who was teaching human children about different planets and star systems. None of them looked like prisoners. All of them seemed to be living normal, peaceful lives. Commander Lee decided to risk direct communication with one of their former warriors. He ordered Kim to send a tightly focused message to Taiwan while he was working in the farm fields. Scout Tae-Wan, this is Commander Lee Dong-woo. Please respond immediately. That is a direct order. For a few minutes there was no answer. Then Tae-Wan's voice came through, but he sounded different than Lee remembered. Calmer, more relaxed. Hello, Commander. I'm glad to hear you're safe. Scout, what is your status? Are you being held prisoner? Do you need rescue? Tae-Wan was quiet for a moment. No, Commander. I'm not a prisoner, and I don't need to be rescued. Then what are you doing?
Why aren't you with the fleet?
The fleet is gone, Commander. We chose to stay. Chose to stay?
What do you mean?
What happened to your mission? Another long pause. Then Tae-Wan said something that changed everything for Commander Lee. We learned something here, Commander. Something important. The humans showed us a different way to live. Not better weapons or better technology. A better way to be alive. That's impossible, Lee said. Humans are primitive. They have nothing to teach the Council. That's what we thought too, Tae-Wan replied. But we were wrong. Come down to the surface, Commander. See for yourself. But come in peace. Come with an open mind. The communication ended there. Tae-Wan wouldn't answer any more calls. Commander Lee gathered his ship captains for an emergency meeting. They used their ship's hologram systems to meet in a virtual conference room, while their vessels stayed hidden in space. What we've learned changes our understanding of the situation, Lee began. Our people weren't defeated. They weren't captured. They chose to abandon their mission and live with humans. Captain Choi shook her head. That's not possible. Council warriors don't just abandon their duties. It goes against everything we're trained to do. But the evidence is clear, Captain Hong said. I've been monitoring emotional patterns from our people on the surface. They're not showing signs of stress, fear, or coercion. They seem genuinely content. Specialist Kim brought up new data on his portable scanner. Commanders, I've been analyzing the communication patterns between our people and the humans. They're not using standard military protocols. They're talking like friends. This was the most shocking revelation yet. Council species rarely formed friendships with other species. They formed alliances, trade partnerships, and military agreements. But friendship was something different, something more personal. There's something else, Kim continued. I've been scanning the brain patterns of humans in the areas where our people are living. Their neural activity shows patterns I've never seen before. What kind of patterns? Lee asked. High levels of what appears to be empathy and cooperation. But it's not just individual humans. It's like their entire species has evolved to work together in ways that most species never achieve. Captain Hong leaned forward in her chair. Are you saying they have some kind of mind control ability? No, Kim said slowly. It's not control. It's more like influence, but not forced influence. It's like being around them makes other species want to be more cooperative and peaceful. Commander Lee felt a chill run down his spine. If humans had some kind of natural ability to influence other species toward cooperation, it would explain everything. Why their warriors had abandoned their mission. Why they seemed happy living simple lives on Earth. Why none of them wanted to return to their military duties. But it also meant something much more dangerous for the Galactic Council. If humans could influence other species just by being around them, they were not primitive at all. They were potentially the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because they were violent, but because they might convince other species to stop being violent. Commander Lee landed his ship at the coordinates Taewon had given him. The location was a simple meadow surrounded by rolling hills and tall trees. It looked peaceful and ordinary, nothing like the secret meeting place he had expected. As he walked away from his ship, he saw a small group of people waiting for him. Some were humans, but others were clearly from Council species. He recognized several faces, warriors who had been reported missing from the original expedition. But they looked different now. Relaxed, content. They weren't wearing military uniforms anymore, but simple clothing that seemed designed for comfort rather than combat. One of the humans stepped forward to greet him. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Her appearance was completely ordinary, but something about her presence made Lee feel like he was meeting someone very important. Commander Lee, she said with a gentle smile. I'm Dr. Moon Yeonsu. Thank you for coming. Lee was confused. This woman was human, but her name sounded Korean. How did she know about Korean names and culture? You look surprised, Dr. Moon said, noticing his expression. You're wondering how I know about your naming conventions, aren't you? How do you know our languages and customs? Lee asked. Because we've been studying your civilizations for much longer than you've been studying ours, she replied. Please walk with me. There's much I need to explain. They began walking through the meadow together. The missing council warriors followed at a distance, giving them privacy to talk, but staying close enough to listen. Commander, what do you know about Earth's history? Dr. Moon asked. Our databases say humans developed space travel recently. You're still limited to your local star system. You have no energy weapons, no advanced defensive systems. Dr. Moon nodded. That's what we wanted you to think. But the truth is quite different. She led him to the top of a small hill where they could see for miles in all directions. The landscape looked like typical Earth countryside. But as Lee looked more carefully, he began to notice things that didn't fit. Do you see those structures in the distance? Dr. Moon pointed to what looked like farm buildings. They're not what they appear to be. Lee focused his enhanced vision on the buildings. At first they looked normal, but then he saw subtle details that revealed their true nature. The materials were too uniform. The energy signatures were too clean. These weren't primitive farm buildings at all. What are they really? He asked. Advanced research facilities, Dr. Moon replied. We've been developing technology for centuries, but we've kept it hidden. We learned long ago that showing our true capabilities would be seen as a threat by species like yours. Why hide your technology? Because we learned from watching other species in the galaxy. We saw what happened when civilizations focused on military advancement. They became warlike, competitive, and eventually self-destructive. We chose a different path. Dr. Moon led him down the hill toward one of the hidden facilities. As they walked, she continued her explanation. Hundreds of years ago, we detected signals from your Galactic Council. We learned about your languages, your cultures, your politics. We watched your wars and your conquests. And we realized that our species had something that yours had lost. What was that? The ability to choose cooperation over competition. The wisdom to value life over victory. They reached the building, and Dr. Moon pressed her hand against what looked like a wooden door. The door dissolved, revealing a sophisticated interior filled with technology that was far more advanced than anything in council space. This is impossible, Lee whispered. Our scouts never detected any of this. Because we designed it not to be detected, Dr. Moon said. We've had centuries to perfect our concealment methods. Inside the facility, Lee saw things that challenged everything he thought he knew about technology and science. Humans were working alongside beings from species he had never seen before. The equipment they were using seemed to bend the laws of physics in ways that council science said were impossible. Who are those other beings? Lee asked, pointing to creatures that looked like living crystal formations. Friends, Dr. Moon replied simply. Species from distant parts of the galaxy who, like us, chose cooperation over conquest. We've been working together for a very long time. One of the crystal beings approached them. When it spoke, its voice sounded like musical chimes. Greetings, Council Warrior, it said. I am Resonance of Peace. My people have been watching your civilization's development with great interest. How many species are involved in this? Alliance? Lee asked. More than your council has ever encountered, Dr. Moon replied. We represent what you might call the other galaxy. The civilizations that chose growth over domination. They spent the next several hours showing Lee technology and concepts that revolutionized his understanding of what was possible. Energy systems that enhanced life instead of destroying it. Transportation methods that worked in harmony with natural forces. Communication systems that promoted understanding between different species, but the most shocking revelation came when Dr. Moon showed him recordings of the original Council expedition to Earth. We knew you were coming, long before you arrived, she said, activating a holographic display. We had been preparing for this contact for decades. The recording showed the moment when the Council fleet first entered Earth's system. But it also showed something Lee hadn't known about. Dozens of hidden human ships that had been monitoring the Council forces from the beginning. You could have destroyed our fleet before we even reached your planet, Lee realized. Yes, Dr. Moon confirmed. But that would have defeated the purpose of this entire exercise. What purpose? To show your people and your council that there was a better way to live. Your warriors weren't captured or defeated, Commander. They were invited to experience something they had never encountered before. A civilization built on mutual support rather than military dominance. The recording continued, showing how human representatives had approached the Council warriors not with weapons, but with offers of food, shelter, and medical care. Many of the warriors had been suspicious at first, but gradually they began to understand that the humans genuinely wanted to help them. But why did they choose to stay? Lee asked. Because for the first time in their lives they experienced what it felt like to be valued for who they were, rather than what they could destroy, Dr. Moon explained. They found purpose beyond warfare. They discovered that their skills and intelligence could be used to build and create, rather than conquer and control. Scout Taiwan joined them at this point in the conversation. He looked healthy and happy, very different from the stressed warrior Lee remembered. Commander, Taiwan said, I want you to understand something important. The humans didn't brainwash us or force us to stay. They showed us alternatives we never knew existed. Once we saw how life could be lived, going back to the Council's way of doing things felt impossible. But what about duty? What about loyalty to the Council? What about loyalty to ourselves? Taiwan replied. What about loyalty to the idea that life should be about more than following orders and defeating enemies? Dr. Moon led them to another room where they could see a live communication feed from Station Prime. Council leaders were in emergency session, debating what to do about the Earth situation. Their conversations revealed the depth of their concern about the infection that was spreading among their military forces. They're terrified, Lee observed. Yes, Dr. Moon agreed. Because they understand that if their people learn what we have to offer, their entire system of government and control will collapse. And that's what you want? To destroy the council? No, Commander. We want to transform it. We want to show your leaders and your people that there are ways to organize civilization that don't require constant warfare and competition. General Oh Seong-hwan appeared on the communication feed, arguing forcefully for an immediate military strike against Earth. His words chilled Lee's blood. We cannot allow this contamination to spread further, the general was saying. I recommend immediate orbital bombardment of the entire planet. Complete sterilization. It's the only way to protect our civilization from this threat. Senator Ryu Mi-young was arguing against the general's proposal, but Lee could see that she was losing the debate. Fear was driving the council toward a desperate and destructive solution. They're going to attack Earth, Lee said quietly. We know, Dr. Moon replied calmly. We've been expecting this reaction. Then you have to defend yourselves. Use your hidden technology to protect your planet. Dr. Moon smiled sadly. Violence, even in self-defense, would defeat everything we're trying to accomplish. If we fight back, we become just another warlike species. We prove that the Council's way is the only way. Then what will you do? What we've always done. We'll offer them a choice. They can choose to destroy us or they can choose to learn from us. But the choice has to be theirs. Historian Yang Woo-sung had been quietly listening to their conversation. Now he stepped forward with information that changed Lee's understanding once again. Commander, there's something else you need to know about the species in your council, Yang said. We've been studying your histories going back thousands of years. Every species in your alliance was once like us. What do you mean? Commander Lee made his decision. He stayed on Earth. For the next 6 weeks, he worked alongside humans and former council warriors to prepare for what was coming. But their preparation wasn't what he expected. They weren't building weapons or defensive systems. Instead, they were creating something far more powerful. They were building a demonstration of what peace could look like. Dr. Moon led the project, bringing together beings from dozens of species to create a living example of cooperative civilization. In just a few weeks, they transformed the area around the meadow into a small city unlike anything Lee had ever seen. Buildings grew rather than being constructed, shaped by beings who understood how to work with natural forces instead of fighting against them. Energy systems drew power from the planet itself without causing any damage. Transportation moved people and goods through the city, using methods that seemed more like dancing than engineering. But most importantly, every being in the new city, human, Altarian, Chronari, and species Lee had never encountered before, worked together as if they had been friends for years. How is this possible? Lee asked Dr. Moon as they watched a group of children from 5 different species playing together in a park where the grass sang soft melodies when touched. Because cooperation is the natural state of intelligent life, she replied. Competition and warfare are learned behaviors. Remove the pressure to compete and beings naturally work together. Meanwhile, the Council's war fleet was approaching Earth. Admiral Song Jin-woo commanded over 1,000 ships, each one armed with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The fleet's mission was simple: complete destruction of Earth and everything on it. But as the fleet entered the solar system, something unexpected happened. Admiral, reported Captain Hong Soo-bin from her scanning station, we're receiving a transmission from Earth, but it's not from humans. What do you mean? Song asked. It's from our own people, the missing warriors. They're all alive, and they're asking us to come to the planet's surface. The transmission was broadcast on all council frequencies so that every ship in the fleet could hear it. It was a joint message from hundreds of former council warriors, representing every species in the alliance. Friends and former comrades, the message began. We know why you've come here. We know you've been told that we were captured or killed or corrupted by the humans, but none of that is true. Scout Taewon's voice was among those speaking. We chose to stay on Earth because we found something here that we never had in the Council. We found purpose beyond warfare. We found meaning beyond conquest. We found peace. The message continued with each speaker describing their experience on Earth. Engineers talked about building systems that helped people instead of hurting them. Soldiers described using their skills to protect and nurture life rather than destroy it. Scientists explained discoveries they had made by collaborating with other species instead of competing with them. We invite you to see for yourselves, the message concluded. Send representatives to the surface. Come unarmed and with open minds. Let us show you what we've learned. Admiral Song was faced with an impossible decision. His orders were clear: destroy the planet immediately. But the message from his own people had shaken his resolve. These weren't strangers asking him to trust them. These were warriors he had served with, people whose judgment he had always respected. Captain Hong spoke quietly to the Admiral. Sir, what if we sent a small diplomatic mission first? Just to verify the situation? Our orders are to attack immediately, Song replied. There's no provision for diplomacy. But sir, if our people are alive and well, shouldn't we at least investigate before we proceed with destruction? Song struggled with the decision for hours. Finally, his conscience won over his orders. Captain Hong, take a small team to the surface. You have 12 hours to assess the situation and report back. Hong's shuttle landed in the meadow where Lee had first met Dr. Moon. But now the area was transformed into the beautiful demonstration city that the cooperation project had created. As Hong and her team stepped out of their shuttle, they were greeted by a sight that challenged everything they thought they knew about civilization. Beings from dozens of species were working together in perfect harmony. Former council warriors were teaching human children about the stars. Human engineers were collaborating with alien scientists to develop new technologies. Artists from different worlds were creating beauty that none of them could have achieved alone. But most shocking of all, everyone looked genuinely happy. This is impossible, Hong whispered to her team. Civilizations don't work this way. Dr. Moon approached their group with a warm smile. Welcome to Earth, Captain Hong. Your friends have been waiting for you. Over the next 12 hours, Hong and her team experienced the same transformation that had affected every council being who spent time on Earth. They saw former warriors using their skills to build instead of destroy. They watched different species solving problems through cooperation instead of competition. They felt, for the first time in their lives, what it was like to be in a place where conflict was not the normal state of existence. When Hong returned to the fleet, her report stunned Admiral Song. Sir, our people aren't prisoners. They're not being controlled or manipulated. They've simply found a better way to live. That's not possible, Song insisted. Beings can't just abandon their nature. But what if our nature isn't what we thought it was? Hong asked. What if competition and warfare aren't natural at all, but just habits we learned over thousands of years? Hong's words echoed through the fleet as her report was shared among the ship commanders. Doubt began to spread among the council forces. If their own people had chosen to abandon military life for something better, what did that say about the civilization they were defending? Back on Station Prime, the council leadership watched the situation spiral beyond their control. General Oh Seung-hwan demanded immediate action. Every moment we delay allows this contamination to spread further through our fleet, he argued. We must destroy Earth now, even if it means sacrificing our own people who are trapped there. But Senator Ryu Mi-young had received private communications from some of the fleet commanders expressing doubts about the mission. The idea of destroying their own warriors was creating moral conflicts throughout the military. What if there's another way? She suggested. What if we negotiate with the humans? Negotiate what? Oh demanded. They've already taken our people from us. What more could they want? The answer came in an unexpected transmission directly to Station Prime. Dr. Moon appeared on their main communication screen, speaking calmly and clearly. Leaders of the Galactic Council, she began. I am Dr. Moon Yeon-soo, speaking for Earth and our allies. We know about your fleet's mission to destroy our world. We want to offer you an alternative. Chancellor Kim Tae-ho leaned forward in his chair. What alternative? Choose 3 representatives from your council. Send them to Earth for 1 week. Let them see what we've built here, what your own people have chosen to join. If, after 1 week, they still believe we represent a threat that must be destroyed, we will not resist your attack. And if they decide otherwise? Chancellor Kim asked. Then we begin discussions about how to transform the galaxy into something better than it has ever been. The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some leaders saw this as an obvious trap. Others recognized it as possibly the only way to avoid destroying their own people along with Earth. After hours of debate, Chancellor Kim made the decision. We will send 3 representatives, but the fleet remains in position, ready to attack if needed. The 3 representatives chosen were General Oh Sung-hwan, Senator Ryu Mi-young, and Admiral Yoon Hae-jin. Each represented a different faction within the council leadership. When they arrived on Earth, they found Commander Lee waiting for them along with Dr. Moon and representatives from dozens of species. "Welcome," Lee said to his former superiors. "I know this is difficult for you. A few weeks ago, I would have reacted the same way you are now." "Commander," General O said sternly, "you abandoned your post and disobeyed direct orders." "Yes, I did," Lee replied calmly, "because I learned that some things are more important than orders. Some things are more important than the chain of command." Over the following week, the 3 council leaders experienced the same transformation that had affected everyone else who spent time on Earth. They saw cooperation replacing competition. They watched different species solving problems together that none could solve alone. They experienced what peace actually felt like after a lifetime of constant conflict. But the most powerful moment came when they met with former council warriors who had chosen to stay on Earth. "Why?" General O asked one of his former officers. "Why did you abandon everything we built together?" The officer, a veteran of dozens of military campaigns, looked at his former commander with compassion rather than anger. "General, we didn't abandon what we built.
We realized that what we were building was wrong.
We were creating a galaxy based on fear, competition, and violence. Here we learned to build something based on cooperation, understanding, and peace." "But without military strength, how do you protect yourselves?" Admiral Yoon asked. "We protect ourselves by making friends instead of enemies," Dr. Moon replied.